The starship Voidcrest floated in the darkness of space. It was huge, about 5 miles long, with smooth gray walls that curved like the body of a sea creature. Inside this ship, aliens called the Lysine did their work. These aliens looked almost human, but they were much taller, with skin that glowed softly in the dark and eyes that were black like deep space, with tiny dots of light like stars. In one room of the ship, a female Lysine named Zara Zin stood over a clear box. Inside the box was a human baby girl. The baby was very small and very sick. Tubes and wires connected her to machines that beeped and flashed with colored lights. "Another failure," Zara said. Her voice was musical but cold. She tapped on a screen with her long, 7-fingered hand. "Subject 42 is rejecting the genetic modifications." Next to her, another Lysine checked the baby's vital signs. "The human child will not survive much longer, Chief Scientist. Her cells are breaking down at an increasing rate." Zara's face showed no emotion. The Lysine had been taking humans for hundreds of years. They used them to try to find a way to live forever. This baby girl was just one more test that didn't work. "Terminate the experiment," Zara ordered. "Prepare the specimen for disposal at the next habitable planet." The other Lysine nodded and pressed some buttons. The machines connected to the baby made different sounds now. The clear box began to move, sliding into a wall opening that led to another part of the ship. Zara turned to a large window. Outside, stars moved slowly past as the Voidcrest traveled through space. "Inform me when we reach the Draconis system," she said. "We will discard the failed specimen there." 2 days later, the Voidcrest entered orbit around a small blue-green planet. The Lysine called it D-117. To them, it was just another world, useful only as a place to leave things they no longer wanted. In a small room deep in the ship, 2 Lysine technicians prepared an escape pod. Inside, they placed the baby girl, who was barely alive. Her skin had strange blue marks on it from the experiments. "Do you ever wonder if what we do is wrong?" the younger technician asked quietly. The older one looked shocked. "The Council decides what is right. Our work serves the greater good of our species. This human would have lived a short life anyway. At least her existence served a purpose. The pod was small, just big enough for the baby. It would fall to the planet and open on impact. If the child somehow survived, nature would take its course. The Lysine didn't care either way." "Launch the disposal unit," Zara's voice said over the communication system. The technicians pushed some final buttons, and the pod was ejected from the ship. It fell toward the blue-green world below, a tiny metal tear dropping from the eye of the massive vessel. Zara watched the pod's descent on a screen, then turned away. "Set course for the next research zone," she ordered, "and prepare the laboratory for a new subject." The Voidcrest's engines glowed brighter, and the ship moved away from the planet, leaving the falling pod behind. To Zara and the other Lysine, the baby girl was already forgotten. But on the planet below, something unusual was happening. The pod's entry into the atmosphere triggered sensors in a small human research station. Inside the station, a woman named Elaine Merritt looked up from her work as alarms began to sound. "What the?" she muttered, moving quickly to a computer screen. She watched as data scrolled past, showing an object entering the atmosphere at high speed. It wasn't a meteor, the composition was all wrong, and its descent was controlled, slowing as it approached the surface. Elaine grabbed a jacket and some equipment. "Computer, track that object and guide me to its landing site," she said, rushing out the door of her small outpost. Outside, the sky of planet D-117 was turning from day to night. 3 moons were visible, casting a silver-blue light over the landscape. Elaine jumped into her small rover vehicle and started the engine. As she drove across the rocky terrain, she couldn't help but feel excited. In the 5 years she had been on this planet, studying its unusual plant and animal life, nothing like this had happened. Something from space was coming. Maybe it was a probe from Earth sent to check on her, or maybe it was something else entirely. The rover's navigation system beeped, showing that the object had landed about 3 miles ahead. Elaine drove faster, bouncing over rocks and small hills. In the distance, she could see a faint glow where something had hit the ground. When she reached the spot, she found a small crater. In the center was a metal pod, about the size of a large suitcase. The pod had split open on impact, and inside— "Oh my God," Elaine whispered. She jumped out of the rover and ran to the pod. Inside was a baby girl, tiny and still, with strange blue markings on her skin. For a moment, Elaine thought the child was dead. Then she saw the slight rise and fall of the baby's chest. Elaine was a scientist, not a doctor, but she knew enough about first aid. She checked the baby's pulse. It was weak but steady. The child was very cold. "Hang on, little one," Elaine said. She took off her jacket and wrapped it around the baby, then gently picked her up. "I've got you. You're safe now." As Elaine carried the baby back to the rover, she noticed something strange. The blue markings on the child's skin were glowing faintly in the moonlight. And more unusual still, the ground around the crater seemed to be responding to that glow. Tiny flowers normally closed at night were opening as Elaine passed with the baby. Small stones with crystal formations were glowing with the same blue light. "What happened to you?" Elaine asked softly. "And who sent you here?" The baby made a small sound, almost like a sigh. Elaine held her closer and hurried to the rover. She needed to get the child back to the outpost where she had medical supplies and warmth. As they drove away from the landing site, Elaine didn't notice the ground continuing to react where the pod had landed. She didn't see the strange symbols that appeared briefly in the dirt, glowing blue then fading, and she certainly didn't feel the deep vibration that passed through the planet's crust, traveling down and down, awakening something that had slept for thousands of years, something ancient, something powerful, something that had been waiting for exactly this moment. 5 years passed on planet D-117. In the small research outpost, Elaine Merritt sat at her desk, watching the child she had named Maya. The little girl was drawing pictures with colored pencils, her small face focused on her work. The blue markings on her skin glowed faintly as they always did when she was happy or excited. "What are you drawing today, Maya?" Elaine asked. Maya held up her paper. On it was a picture of a big creature with wings and a long tail. "The friend from my dreams," she said. "She talks to me when I'm sleeping." Elaine smiled but felt a small worry inside. Maya often talked about these dreams. Dreams of big creatures that lived under the ground. Dreams of ancient cities and strange machines. At first, Elaine thought they were just normal child dreams. But as Maya grew, the dreams became more detailed, more real. "Does your friend have a name?" Elaine asked. Maya nodded. "She says I can call her Azuran. She's very old. She's been sleeping for a long, long time." Maya went back to her drawing, adding more details to the creature's scales and wings. Elaine turned to her computer. For 5 years, she had cared for Maya, watching her grow from a sickly baby into a strong, smart child. The blue markings had never faded. Instead, they had grown with her, forming patterns that reminded Elaine of circuit boards or ancient writing. Maya was not a normal child. She healed from cuts and bruises in minutes, not days. She could sense things before they happened. And strangest of all, she seemed connected to the planet itself. Plants grew better when she was near. Animals were drawn to her. And the old ruins that Elaine had been studying before Maya arrived, ruins of a civilization long gone, seemed to react to Maya's presence. Elaine had discovered the first ruin 2 years before Maya arrived. It was a building made of black stone that seemed to absorb light. Inside were rooms with strange symbols on the walls and floors that no one had been able to translate. Elaine had been sent to study these ruins, to try to understand who had built them and why they had disappeared. After Maya came, Elaine discovered that the symbols on the walls matched the markings on Maya's skin. A beeping sound came from one of Elaine's machines. She looked at the screen and frowned. "That's odd," she said. "The seismic sensors are picking up vibrations again." Maya looked up from her drawing. "The friends are moving," she said simply. "They're getting ready." "Ready for what, Maya?" Elaine asked, a chill running down her spine. Maya shrugged. "I don't know, but they're excited. They've been waiting a long time." Elaine stood up. "Let's go check on the garden," she said, trying to sound normal. But inside she felt worried. The tremors in the ground had been happening more often lately. Small ones at first, but getting stronger. And each time Maya would say something strange about friends moving or waking up. Outside, the 3 moons of D-117 shone down on Elaine's small garden. Plants from Earth grew next to native plants with purple and blue leaves. Maya ran ahead, laughing. The plants seemed to turn toward her as she passed, like flowers following the sun. Elaine checked the soil moisture and the plant health. Everything looked good. Too good, really. Plants shouldn't grow this well on a foreign planet, but they did, at least around Maya. "Elaine, look," Maya called. She was standing at the edge of the garden, pointing at something on the ground. Elaine walked over. There, half buried in the dirt, was a large, shiny object. It looked like a scale, about the size of Elaine's hand with colors that shifted and changed in the moonlight. "Can I keep it?" Maya asked, picking up the scale. Elaine stared at it. She had never seen anything like it before. It wasn't from any animal she had cataloged on D117. "Where did you find it, Maya?" "It was just here," Maya said. "There are more over there." She pointed toward a small hill near the outpost. Elaine took Maya's hand. "Show me." They walked to the hill. All around it, more scales lay on the ground. Some were small, like the one Maya had found. Others were much larger, big enough that Elaine could barely lift them. All had the same shifting colors like oil on water. What kind of animal loses scales this big? Elaine whispered to herself. "They're not lost," Maya said. "They're shed. Like how snakes shed their skin when they grow." Elaine looked at Maya. "How do you know that?" Maya touched one of the big scales. As her fingers made contact, the blue markings on her skin glowed brighter. "Azaran told me. In my dreams." That night, Elaine couldn't sleep. She sat at her computer reviewing all her notes from 5 years of studying D117. The ruins, the strange plants and animals, the unusual energy readings that sometimes appeared on her instruments. And now these scales. Something was happening on this planet, something connected to Maya. The next morning, Elaine decided to take Maya to the largest ruin site, about 10 miles from the outpost. They hadn't been there in months. Elaine packed food, water, and her research equipment into the rover. "Are we going to the old city?" Maya asked excitedly as they drove. "Yes," Elaine said. "I want to check on some readings." The old city, as Maya called it, wasn't really a city anymore. Just the remains of one. Stone buildings mostly fallen down, strange metal structures that hadn't rusted despite being thousands of years old. And at the center, a large building that Elaine called the temple. It was the most intact structure, with high walls and a domed roof. As they approached the ruins, Elaine noticed something different. The black stones seemed less dark. Some even had a faint glow like Maya's skin markings. They parked the rover and walked toward the temple. Maya ran ahead, excited. She had always loved coming here. Elaine followed more slowly, watching how the ruins reacted to Maya's presence. The closer she got to the temple, the more the stones glowed. Inside the temple was a large room with a round platform in the center. The walls were covered with the same symbols that matched Maya's skin markings. Elaine had spent months trying to translate them with little success. Maya went straight to the platform and stood on it. "Elaine, watch this," she said. She put her hands on a small pedestal in the center of the platform. "Maya, be careful," Elaine called. We don't know what, but it was too late. As Maya's hands touched the pedestal, her skin markings glowed bright blue. The symbols on the walls lit up with the same color. And then something amazing happened. The air above the platform shimmered and an image appeared. A 3-dimensional map of stars and planets. "It's a map," Elaine whispered, walking closer. She recognized some of the star patterns. There was Earth's sun. And there at the center of the map was D117. "Not just a map," Maya said, her voice sounding older somehow. "It's a history, a memory." She moved her hands on the pedestal and the image changed. Now it showed D117 with huge cities covering much of its surface. Cities built by creatures that looked like giant lizards with wings. "Who built this place, Maya?" Elaine asked, her voice shaking. Maya looked at her, eyes glowing the same blue as her skin markings. "The Draconis," she said. "The dragons. They lived here long ago, but when their son began to die, they went to sleep deep underground. They've been waiting for someone to wake them." "Waiting for who?" Elaine asked, though she was afraid she already knew the answer. "For me," Maya said. "They changed me so I could wake them when the time was right." Before Elaine could ask more questions, a loud alarm sounded from her equipment. She rushed to check it. "What's wrong?" Maya asked, stepping off the platform. The map disappeared and the glow faded from the walls. Elaine's face went pale as she looked at her scanner. "Something just entered the atmosphere," she said. "Something big, and it's heading straight for us." Elaine grabbed Maya's hand and pulled her toward the exit of the temple. "We need to get back to the outpost," she said urgently. "What is it?" Maya asked, running alongside Elaine. "What's coming?" "I don't know," Elaine said, but deep down she had a bad feeling. The object entering the atmosphere was too large to be a meteor, and its path was too controlled. Someone was coming to D117. They reached the rover and jumped in. Elaine started the engine and drove quickly away from the ruins. In the sky above, a bright light cut through the clouds, leaving a trail of smoke. "They're coming for me," Maya said quietly. "The ones who made me this way." Elaine glanced at Maya, surprised. "How do you know that?" "I just know," Maya said, touching the blue markings on her arm. "They threw me away, but now they want me back." The rover bounced over the rough ground as Elaine drove as fast as she could back to the outpost. The bright light in the sky was getting closer, heading toward the same area. When they reached the outpost, Elaine rushed inside and activated the security system. It wasn't much, just some basic sensors and a communication array, but it was better than nothing. "Maya, pack some food and water," Elaine said, trying to keep her voice calm. "We might need to hide for a while." Maya nodded and went to get supplies. Elaine turned to her computer and began typing rapidly, sending an emergency message toward Earth. She didn't know if anyone would receive it in time, but she had to try. "Unknown spacecraft approaching research outpost on D-117, she typed. "Possible hostile intent. Requesting immediate assistance. Be advised. Special situation regarding child subject Maya. Repeat. Requesting immediate assistance." The message sent, but Elaine knew it would take months to reach Earth at the speed of light. They were on their own. Outside, the ground began to shake. At first, Elaine thought it was the spacecraft landing, but this was different. The vibrations were coming from below, not above. Maya came back with a backpack full of supplies. Her eyes were wide, and the markings on her skin were glowing brighter than Elaine had ever seen them. "They're waking up," Maya whispered. "All of them." A loud boom shook the outpost as the spacecraft landed about a mile away. Elaine looked out the window and saw a sleek, silver ship much smaller than the one she had glimpsed 5 years ago when she found Maya. This was a shuttlecraft, not a full starship. "We need to hide," Elaine said, grabbing her own backpack and some research equipment. But Maya shook her head. "No," she said firmly. "We need to go to the landing site." "Maya, that's crazy. We don't know who they are or what they want." "I know what they want," Maya said. "They want me. But they won't get me. The Draconis won't let them." As if to confirm Maya's words, the ground shook again, harder this time. Outside, cracks appeared in the earth, spreading out from the outpost in all directions. And from those cracks, a soft blue light began to glow, the same color as Maya's skin markings. Elaine stared in amazement. "What's happening?" "The network is activating," Maya said. "The Draconis built it long ago all across the planet. It's been sleeping like them, but now it's waking up." Another boom shook the outpost, but this one wasn't from the ground. It was an explosion coming from the direction of the spacecraft. "They're coming," Maya said. "We need to go outside." "Outside?" "Maya, no." But Maya was already running to the door. Elaine had no choice but to follow. Outside, the sky had turned dark with strange clouds. The blue light from the ground cracks made everything look unreal, like a dream. In the distance, Elaine could see figures moving toward them from the landed spacecraft. They were tall and willowy, with skin that glowed faintly in the dim light. "Lysine," Maya said. "That's what they call themselves." The ground shook again, harder than before. One of the cracks near the outpost widened suddenly, becoming a large hole. And from that hole, something began to emerge. Elaine gasped as a huge head rose from the ground. It was covered in iridescent scales that shifted colors like the ones they had found. The head was followed by a long neck, powerful shoulders, and massive wings that unfurled slowly. It was a dragon, not like the ones in Earth stories, but something both more alien and more magnificent. It stood taller than the outpost, its wings stretching out to block the sky. Its eyes were huge and filled with ancient intelligence. Maya walked toward the dragon without fear. The creature lowered its massive head until it was level with the small girl. Maya reached out and touched the dragon's snout. As she did, her skin markings and the dragon's scales glowed with the same blue light. "Hello, Azeron," Maya said. "I've been waiting to meet you for real." The dragon made a sound, not quite a roar, but something more complex. And somehow Elaine understood it as words. "Child of two worlds," the dragon said, though its mouth didn't move. The words were in Elaine's mind. "You have awakened us as was foretold." More cracks opened in the ground around them and more dragons emerged. Some were smaller than Azeron, others even larger. All had scales that shifted colors in the strange light, and all had eyes that showed the same ancient wisdom. The Lysine had stopped moving forward. They stood about 100 yards away, weapons in their hands, staring at the dragons in what looked like shock. One of the Lysine stepped forward. She was taller than the others, with darker skin that had patterns of light moving across it like stars. "Subject 42, she called out. "You will return with us immediately." Maya stood straighter. With the massive dragon behind her and the blue light of the planetary network glowing all around, she looked far older than her 5 years. "My name is Maya," she said, her voice carrying clearly across the distance. "And I'm not going anywhere with you." The Lysine leader raised a hand and the others lifted their weapons. "The specimen has clearly been affected by this planet's environment," she said. "Retrieve it with minimal damage if possible." Azeron's wings spread wider, casting a shadow over Maya and Elaine. The other dragons moved to form a circle around them. "You will not touch the child," Azeron's voice resonated in everyone's mind. "She is under our protection." The Lysine leader's face showed surprise, then anger. "What are you?" she demanded. "Identify yourselves." "We are the Draconis," Azeron replied. "The original inhabitants of this world. We who went to sleep when our sun began to fail. We who left behind the genetic key that would one day awaken us." "Impossible," the Lysine leader said. "Our scans showed no intelligent life on this planet." "Because we chose to sleep," Azeron said. "Deep below the surface, beyond your scans. Waiting for the right time. Waiting for the one who carries our legacy." Maya stepped forward, the blue glow of her markings pulsing with her heartbeat. "You tried to make me like you," she said to the Lysine. "But you mixed my DNA with something else. Something you found here from the old ruins." The Lysine leader's expression changed to one of understanding, then calculation. "The regenerative properties we detected in the soil samples," she said. "We thought it was a simple biological agent. You didn't realize you were playing with dragonfire," Maya finished for her. "You didn't know what you were doing to me. But the Draconis knew. They've been watching through me, learning, preparing." The ground shook again as more dragons emerged from cracks all across the landscape. Dozens of them now, of all sizes, their scales glittering in the strange light. The Lysine leader took a step back. She raised a small device to her mouth and spoke rapidly. Behind her, the other Lysine began to retreat toward their ship. "You have made a serious error," the leader called to Maya. "The Lysine conclave will not allow this planet to harbor a threat. We will return in greater numbers." Azeron moved forward, the ground trembling under the dragon's massive weight. "Tell your conclave this," the dragon said. The mental voice so powerful now that several of the Lysine clutched their heads in pain. "The Draconis remember the old wars. We remember how your ancestors fled when our world began to die. We remember everything." The Lysine turned and ran back to their ship. Within minutes, the spacecraft lifted off, accelerating quickly into the sky until it was just a bright dot that vanished among the stars. Elaine stood in shocked silence, trying to process everything that had happened. Maya walked back to her and took her hand. "Are you okay?" Maya asked. Elaine laughed shakily. "Am I okay?" "Maya, there are dragons." "Real dragons. And they know you. And the aliens who made you this way are coming back with more ships." "I know," Maya said calmly. "It's a lot. But don't worry. The Draconis will protect us." Azeron lowered her massive head again. "The child speaks truth," the dragon said in their minds. "We have slept for 5,000 years waiting for this day. The one who carries our genetic legacy has awakened us, and now we will fulfill our purpose." "Which is what, exactly?" Elaine asked, finding her courage. "To restore balance," Azeron replied. "The Lysine seek to extend their lives by taking from others. They have done this across many worlds for many centuries. They must be stopped." "And you think Maya is going to help you stop them?" Elaine asked, putting a protective arm around the girl. "She's just a child." Azeron's eyes, large as dinner plates, blinked slowly. "She is much more than just a child," the dragon said. "She is the bridge between worlds, human and Draconis, present and past. She will help us remember what we once were, and show us what we can become." The next day, ships from the Alliance began to land on D-117. Elaine watched in amazement as beings from dozens of different worlds stepped onto the planet's surface. Some looked almost human. Others were so alien that Elaine could barely understand how they moved or communicated. Maya greeted them all without fear. Her blue markings glowed as she touched hands, tentacles, or whatever appendages the visitors offered in greeting. The dragons, led by Azeron, formed a circle around the growing gathering, their massive bodies creating a natural amphitheater. "I've never seen anything like this," Elaine said to Maya as they took a short break from meeting the visitors. How did the Draconis call all these different species here so quickly? The network, Maya explained, drinking some water. It's not just on this planet. The Draconis built it across many worlds long ago. It's been sleeping, like them, but when I woke up the dragons, the network woke up too. It sent a signal that only certain ships could hear. Ships belonging to people the Lysine had hurt, Elaine guessed. Maya nodded. People who had been taken for experiments. People who had family members taken. People who had been watching the Lysine for a long time, waiting for a chance to stop them. A tall being with blue-green skin and 4 arms approached them. It wore a simple white robe with symbols that reminded Elaine of mathematical equations. You must be the catalyst, the being said to Maya, its voice musical and strange. I am Zell of the Fandrax Collective. We have monitored Lysine activities for 3 centuries. Never did we imagine they would create the means of their own downfall. I didn't mean to be anyone's downfall, Maya said. I just want them to stop hurting people. Zell's large eyes blinked slowly. Of course. Forgiveness is a luxury of the young. We shall follow your lead in this, Catalyst. As Zell moved away, Elaine gave Maya a questioning look. Catalyst? It's what they're calling me, Maya said with a small shrug. The spark that started the fire. The key that opened the door. I don't really like it, but I guess it's better than Subject 42. Azeron's massive head lowered near them. It is time, the dragons said in their minds. The Lysine have made their decision. The gathered aliens and dragons turned their attention to the sky. The Lysine fleet still hovered there, silver ships glinting in the sunlight. A single shuttle detached from the largest vessel and began to descend. Is it Zara again? Elaine asked. Maya shook her head. No, someone more important this time. The shuttle landed in the center of the gathering. Its door opened and 3 Lysine emerged. They wore elaborate robes with patterns of light that moved across the fabric. Their skin was paler than Zara's, almost white, with markings that glowed with shifting colors. The Lysine Council, Azeron told everyone mentally, the 3 eldest of their species. The Lysine walked forward with dignity, though Elaine could see fear in their eyes as they looked at the gathered dragons and aliens. They stopped in front of Maya, who stood with Azeron behind her. I am Elder Voss of the Lysine Conclave, the tallest of the 3 said. These are Elders Nyx and Taro. We have come to discuss terms. Maya looked very small in front of the tall aliens, but she stood straight and unafraid. Have you considered what Azeron told Zara? She asked. Elder Voss nodded stiffly. We have. Your terms are difficult. Our society has been built on genetic research for millennia. You ask us to abandon our way of life. Not all research, Maya said. Just the kind that hurts people. The kind that takes them against their will and treats them like things instead of beings. Elder Nyx, a female Lysine with intricate patterns on her face, stepped forward. Without subjects, our research will slow dramatically. Our people's lifespans will begin to decrease again. We cannot accept this. You can, said a voice from the crowd. A small furry being pushed forward. I am Krill of the Ventari. My people were taken by yours for 3 generations. We offered to help you with your research voluntarily, but you refused. You said subjects who knew what was happening produced unclear results. Other aliens stepped forward, each with a similar story. The Lysine had rejected offers of cooperation, preferring to take subjects secretly, to experiment on them without their knowledge or consent. Your way is not the only way, Maya said to the Lysine elders. Look around you. All these people, all these species, they have knowledge too. They have gifts and skills. If you worked with them instead of on them, think what you could learn. The Lysine elders looked uncomfortable. Elder Taro, who had been silent until now, spoke in a deep voice. Cooperation is not our strength. Then learn, Azeron said, her mental voice reaching everyone. As we all must learn, the Draconis have slept for 5,000 years. The galaxy has changed in our absence. We too must adapt. Elder Voss looked up at the massive dragon. And if we refuse? In answer, the sky darkened as the ships of the Alliance moved closer. The dragons spread their wings, their scales glowing with blue energy. The message was clear. Refusal was not an option. We have reviewed the evidence provided by the Alliance, Elder Voss said after a long moment. The locations of our research facilities are indeed known to you. Our military forces, while substantial, cannot prevail against the combined might arrayed against us. He paused, then added reluctantly, "We will comply with your demands." A cheer went up from the gathered aliens. Maya smiled, but Elaine noticed it was a sad smile. "You're doing the right thing," Maya told the Lycene elders. "It might not feel like it now, but you are." Elder Nyx looked at Maya with curious eyes. "You are an unusual creation," she said. "Most beings would seek revenge against those who harmed them. Yet you offer us a path forward." "I'm half human, half Draconis," Maya said. "Both of my peoples have made mistakes. Both have learned from them. You can too." Azeron lowered her massive head until she was eye to eye with the Lycene elders. "A treaty will be drafted," she said. "Representatives from all affected species will participate. The terms will include immediate release of all unwilling subjects, cessation of involuntary experimentation, and reparations to those who have been harmed." "And in return?" Elder Voss asked. "In return you will be welcomed into the Alliance," Azeron said. "Your knowledge will be valued, your skills respected, but never again will you place your advancement above the rights of others." The negotiation continued for hours. Elaine watched as Maya moved between the different groups, somehow helping them understand each other despite vast differences in language and culture. The blue markings on her skin seemed to translate concepts that words could not, creating bridges between minds. By the time the 3 moons rose, a framework for the treaty had been established. The Lycene would release all their subjects within 10 days. Alliance ships would oversee the process. The Draconis would share some of their technology, not the secrets of their long lives, but other knowledge that would benefit all species. And Maya would remain on D-117, now renamed Draconova, as a bridge between the old world and the new. As the Lycene elders prepared to return to their ships, Elder Nyx approached Maya one last time. "Child of 2 worlds," she said formally, "the Lycene Conclave acknowledges its error in discarding you. We recognize now that you are not a failed experiment but a new beginning." Maya looked up at the tall alien. "Everyone deserves a second chance," she said. "Even the Lycene." After the Lycene departed, the celebration began. The dragons lit massive fires that burned with blue and green flames. The aliens shared food and drink from their various worlds. Music unlike anything Elaine had ever heard filled the air. Elaine found Maya sitting on a small hill, watching everything with wide eyes. "How are you feeling?" Elaine asked, sitting beside her. "Happy," Maya said, "but also a little scared. Everything's going to change now." Elaine put her arm around the small girl. "Change can be good. The Draconis want me to help them rebuild their cities," Maya said. "They want to make Draconova a center for the Alliance, a place where all species can come together." "That sounds like a big job," Elaine said. Maya nodded. "It is, but I won't be doing it alone." She looked at Elaine. "You'll help me, right?" Elaine hugged her. "Of course I will. I'm not going anywhere." Azeron joined them on the hill, her massive body curling around them protectively. "The child speaks truth," the dragons said in their minds. "None of us walk this path alone now." From their vantage point, they could see the Alliance ships in the sky, the dragons moving across the landscape, and the many different aliens gathered around the fires. It was the beginning of something new, something that had never existed before. "Do you think the Lycene will keep their promise?" Elaine asked. "They will," Maya said confidently. "They're afraid not to, but eventually they'll keep it because they understand it's right." "You have great faith in people," Azeron observed. Maya smiled. "I have to. I'm part of all of them now. Human, Draconis, even Lycene. I'm a bridge, remember?" As if to emphasize her words, Maya's skin markings glowed brighter. In response, Azeron's scales lit up with the same blue light. Across the gathering, other dragon scales began to glow as well. Soon the entire area was illuminated with a soft blue radiance that pulsed like a heartbeat. "The network is growing," Maya said. "Soon it will reach Earth too. Humans will join the Alliance. Will they be ready for it?" Elaine wondered. 3 days passed. The dragons did not leave. Instead, more came, emerging from the ground all over the planet. Elaine watched in amazement as they transformed the area around the outpost, moving earth and stone with their massive claws to create structures that looked like a mix of nests and fortifications. Maya spent most of her time with Azeron, the largest of the dragons. They seemed to be communicating in a way Elaine couldn't hear or understand. Sometimes Maya's skin markings would glow brightly, and Azeron's scales would respond with the same light. "What are you talking about with her?" Elaine asked Maya as they ate dinner inside the outpost on the third night. Maya took a bite of her food and chewed thoughtfully. "History," she said after swallowing. "Azeron is teaching me about the Draconis. They're very old, Elaine. They were traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. And what happened to them? Why did they go to sleep?" Maya's face grew sad. "Their sun started to die. It changed, giving off radiation that was harmful to them. They tried to fix it with their technology, but it didn't work. So they went deep underground to sleep until the star stabilized again." "And has it?" Elaine asked. Maya nodded. "Mostly. That's why I'm here. The Lysine found old Draconis DNA in the ruins and mixed it with mine, trying to get the regenerative abilities. But they didn't understand what they were doing. They created a key." "A key to what?" "To waking the dragons," Maya said simply. "My special DNA lets me activate the old Draconis technology. The stuff that's been sleeping like them." Elaine tried to process this information. "And now the Lysine want you back?" "Yes," Maya said. "They want to study me, to make more like me. They want the secret of how to live as long as the Draconis." "And how long is that?" Elaine asked. Maya's eyes widened. "Azeron is over 10,000 years old," she whispered. "And she's not even one of the oldest." Elaine nearly choked on her food. 10,000 years? Maya nodded. "That's why the Lysine want their secrets. But the Draconis won't give them. They say the Lysine aren't ready, that they would misuse the knowledge." A loud alarm suddenly blared from Elaine's equipment. She jumped up and ran to check the readings. "They're back," she said, her face pale. "A lot more of them this time." Maya didn't look surprised. Azeron said they would come back with a battle fleet. "A battle fleet?" Elaine felt fear growing inside her. "Maya, we need to hide. If they're bringing weapons, it's okay," Maya said, standing up calmly. "The Draconis are ready for them." Outside, the dragons were already moving. They gathered in a large circle around the outpost, their massive bodies forming a living wall. Azeron stood at the center near Maya and Elaine as they came outside. In the sky above, lights appeared. 1, then 5, then dozens. Lysine ships, much larger than the shuttle that had come before. They hovered high in the atmosphere, their silver hulls reflecting the light of the 3 moons. "They're scanning us," Elaine said, looking at her handheld sensor. "Probably trying to figure out how many dragons there are. There are 1,427 of us currently awake." Azeron's voice spoke in their minds. More continue to rise from the deep sleep chambers. A smaller ship detached from one of the larger vessels and began to descend. It landed about half a mile from the outpost, in a clear area between the dragon formations. The ship's door opened, and a single figure emerged. Even from a distance, Elaine recognized the Lysine leader from before. "She wants to talk," Maya said. "Should we go meet her?" Elaine hesitated. "I don't think we will accompany you," Azeron said. "There will be no danger." 3 dragons, including Azeron, moved forward with Maya and Elaine as they walked toward the Lysine ship. As they got closer, Elaine could see that the Lysine leader looked tense, her normally smooth face showing lines of worry. "I am war scientist Zara Zinn of the Lysine Conclave," she announced as they approached. "I have come to negotiate the return of our property." "I am not your property," Maya said before Elaine could respond. "My name is Maya, and I belong to myself." Zara's eyes narrowed. "You were created in our laboratories. Your genetic structure was designed by us. By definition, you are Lysine property." Azeron stepped forward, her massive head lowering until she was eye to eye with Zara. The Lysine leader took an involuntary step back. "The child is under Draconis protection," Azeron said, the mental voice so strong that Zara winced. "She carries our legacy as well as human DNA. Your claim is invalid." Zara struggled to maintain her composure. "Our scans show that you have significant technology buried beneath the surface of this planet. Technology that could benefit many species, including your own. We propose a trade. What kind of trade? Elaine asked suspiciously. The specimen, Maya, in exchange for our leaving this planet and its inhabitants in peace, Zara said. We have a battle fleet in orbit. We could take the child by force, but we prefer to avoid unnecessary conflict. Maya laughed, the sound strangely adult coming from her small body. You can't take me by force, she said, and you can't hurt the Draconis with your weapons. They've been studying your technology through me for 5 years. Zara's face showed surprise, then anger. What do you mean? The markings on my skin, Maya said, holding up her arm where the blue lines glowed softly. They're not just decorative, they're sensors, transmitters. The Draconis have been watching everything I've seen, learning everything I've learned. They know all about Lycene weapons, Lycene ships, Lycene defenses. Zara's face drained of color. That's not possible. It is quite possible, Azeron said. And it is the truth. Your weapons will not harm us. Your ships cannot escape us if we choose to stop them. But we do not seek conflict either. What do you want? Zara asked, her voice less confident now. Justice, Azeron replied. For centuries, your people have taken other species for experimentation. You have used them and discarded them when they were no longer useful. This will end. The Conclave will never agree to— The Conclave will have no choice, Azeron interrupted. Look up, war scientist. Zara looked up at the sky, as did Elaine and Maya. The dragons around them all raised their heads as well. Above them, where the Lycene ships had been hovering, new lights appeared. Not the silver gleam of Lycene vessels, but a rainbow of colors. Ships of designs Elaine had never seen before. Dozens of them, then hundreds, filling the sky. What is this? Zara demanded, her voice shaking slightly. The Draconis Alliance, Azeron said. Species from 100 worlds who have suffered under Lycene experimentation. We have called them here, through the network that spans this planet, the network that Maya activated. Maya smiled at Zara. You're surrounded, she said. Your ships can't leave. You can't call for help. You have to listen now. Zara's hand moved to a device at her belt, but before she could touch it, one of the smaller dragons near them made a sharp sound. The device sparked and fell apart, its pieces dropping to the ground. No communications, Azeron said, no weapons, only words now. Zara stood very still, her eyes moving from Maya to the dragons to the sky full of alien ships. For the first time, she looked afraid. What are your terms? She asked finally. Return to your ships, Azeron said. Tell the Conclave that the age of Lycene experimentation is over. All subjects held against their will are to be released. All genetic research on unwilling specimens is to cease. You will withdraw from the worlds you have invaded solely for the purpose of collecting subjects. And if we refuse? Zara asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. Then the Alliance will enforce these terms, Azeron said. We have mapped every Lycene research facility, every holding center, every lab ship. The choice is simple, change your ways or lose everything. Zara looked at Maya with a mixture of anger and calculation. The specimen, Maya, remains a valuable research subject. The Conclave will not simply abandon years of work. You threw me away, Maya said quietly. You decided I was a failure and left me to die. You don't get to change your mind now just because you were wrong. The child stays here, Elaine said firmly, putting her arm around Maya's shoulders. With me, and with the Draconis who protect her. Zara's face hardened. This is not over, she said. The Conclave will not submit to threats. Azeron's tail moved faster than Elaine could follow. It stopped just inches from Zara's face, the tip glowing with blue energy. This is not a threat, Azeron said. It is a promise. Return to your ships. Deliver our message. You have one planetary rotation to begin compliance or the Alliance moves against you. Zara looked at the dragon's tail, then at Maya. Something like understanding passed across her face. One rotation, she said stiffly. Then she turned and walked back to her ship without another word. As the ship lifted off and returned to the fleet in orbit, Elaine let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Will they really agree to all that? She asked Azeron. They will have no choice, the dragon replied. The balance of power has shifted. For too long, the Lycene have preyed on those they considered lesser beings. That time is ending. Maya touched Azeron's scales, and they glowed in response to her blue markings. What happens now? She asked. Now, Azeron said, we rebuild. The Draconis have slept long enough. It is time to return to the stars, to take our place in the galaxy once more. And you, Maya, will help us remember what it means to be young.